And then I'll pass out the recording if you want to share it, or if there's any information you want from it. This is an introductory webinar per se on smell learning and how we kind of use scent in mental health specifically, and how this is very much different than aromatherapy, and what the program or how we or I work with individuals. And so I have a presentation in which you would have received emails about making sure you have a nice cup of tea. So I'm just brewing the tea. Normally when we work in the kitchen, we work with things like, this is ground coffee, which is fantastic. Yeah, here's Susan. Welcome. So, oh, every time I do this, no matter how many times I do this, I still love it. So we're just waiting. We'll give it a few more minutes before we get started. As I am repeating myself for some who have started, I'm just waiting for my cup of tea, because you would have gotten emails about how we use tea as part of scent. Normally in the kitchen, we use things like, vanilla, and, this is a bag of herbs, but I'll get into that in more detail. So I'm just waiting. This is being recorded, in which we will share at the end on a YouTube channel. My name is Tracy Pepe. I'm going to put my information here in the chat room. If you have any issues, you can definitely email me later on. My website is smellingpink.ca. There's lots of information on that website. And we work with various different plant materials, essential oils, and this is about smell therapy, not aromatherapy. Big difference. So a few more people are coming in. While people are coming in, I'm just going to go check that kettle. 2 seconds, please, please, please. 2 seconds, and give me just 2 seconds. Okay, we are back, and we are going to get started. Okay, so steamy hot tea. Why steamy hot tea? Well, this is these are fabulous. This is a berry-based tea that comes from Newfoundland. Oh, it's got fabulous notes of herbaceous notes. It's got blueberry. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have a presentation. And we are going to, if you have questions, hit me in the chat and I'll try to get to you as soon as possible. But we're going to talk about scent and mental health. And so I'm a perfumer. I've been a perfumer for 35 years in my industry. I used to have a business where I focused on scenting offices, corporations, spaces, hotels, lobbies, using scent almost as a manipulation tool to have you buy more, spend more time. And during COVID, there was a drastic pitch for everybody. And I began to really focus on something that I saw, which was happening, is people were losing their sense of smell and taste during COVID. And I know the impact that has on mental health. You're more inclined to be more depressed. The rate is much higher. It's closer to like 86% if you lose your sense of smell and taste. And so I really started to focus on, I wrote a book, Why the Nose, how to gain back your sense of smell when you lost it. But my personal story begins, this is my older sister, Linda. And she is schizophrenic, bipolar. And all my life, I have had an older sister. She's 9 years older than me, who has experienced severe mental health issues, never diagnosed until much later in life. But when we were kids, we played a smell game. And that smell game was in the kitchen. And the kitchen really was about utilizing things like coffee, vanilla, sardines, mixing them in a bowl, blindfolding, and seeing if we can smell them. And there's one thing that was really interesting to me. It was one game my sister really engaged in. And to this day, she still is highly focused on sense of smell. And then I'm looking at the research years later and seeing the correlation. So we always start everything I do, cup of tea, because most of us never smell our food. We've lost sight of this. And so when you're smelling something, most people have never been taught how to smell. And so the easiest way to do that is you close your eyes. If you keep your mouth open a little bit, and little whiffs, little smells. And what happens is you then start to describe it. And the reason why it's fascinating for me with the whole premise of olfaction is there's no real right or wrong way to describe the various scents. Yes, on a perfumer's scope, there's citrus notes or floral notes or green notes. However, scent is very interesting because it's a language that is not universal by any means. And so learning to talk about sense of smells or smells is really interesting because it's not something that our culture normally does. A sommelier references smells in wines, cognacs. A chef talks about the nuances of smells within their food, but generally we don't reference smell. And so one thing I always start my seminars with is I really encourage you to start smelling things more rapidly, closing your eyes and trying to describe them. And what you are doing is you're building your olfactive the library or the effective memories, the palette in which you would engage with scents. Okay. People who I have hundreds of smells that I smell on a regular basis, but it's only because it's the engagement of my industry and what I do. Some perfumers smell thousands a day. And it's just because that is how we utilize scent, and that's how we work with the smells and break it down. And so one of the things that I do specifically in my work is I do a lot of work with naturals. And one of the reasons I focus on this is when you smell, this is the area of the brain. This is what would be like cilia, little receptors that pick up the olfactive message, which hits the synapses in the brain. This is the frontal cortex area that fires up this area of the brain. But in the back of the brain is where the limbic system is. And the limbic system is home to the old brain, and limbic system is about emotion. And what's really fascinating is the specific work that I do, where we work with long-term care homes, retirement homes, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, it is another form of communication. It's called emotional-based communication, because a lot of individuals we deal with are nonverbal. And so they don't really have the opportunity of expressing. And in certain later stages of certain mental health issues, it's very challenging. And they get stuck with certain areas that they may be just hyper-focused on for whatever reason that may be. I have a son who's on the spectrum. He's in his 30s. And part of my discovery as a mom is I began my journey with my sister, my son, and my industry. And I started to do a lot of research on how scent impacts the brain. And so there's a personal story to this within my world before I actually got into this aspect of my business, because I was looking for my superpower. I was looking for tools. And so I've done a TED Talk, which is, we will make sure you have that information. But it's basically how I kind of fell involved and used this as a tool along the tool, in the toolbox to work with a child on the spectrum, coping mechanisms. Dealing with mental health is one aspect of it, but then the network that is required of family members and people is also another part to the story. So normally I would share jelly beans with you or have you have jelly beans, because what we do with this is we teach people, and you can do this at home. You would basically, this is how you show the connection between smell and taste and why this is so important. You would put the jelly beans in your mouth, plug your nose and your ears, you would chew, and then you would let go. And while you're chewing, you will see a drastic amount of flavor that will be increased in your mouth. It's fascinating because a lot of people, especially seniors, this is the way they eat their food. And some family members have no idea. And that's one of the reasons why they're not interested in eating. But that's the other reason why mental health has an impact on how we eat. Sometimes we eat too much, sometimes we don't eat enough. And taste and smell create flavor. And so if you lose your sense of smell, you will automatically lose your sense of taste. And this impacts so much with individual lives. Now, you may have had COVID over the past 2-3 years or 2 years, and you may have gotten your taste of smell back and your sense of smell back, but to what degree? How much? Have you ever really smelled different things to see? Did it with a partner or a friend to see, can you actually smell the variations? So this is something that I'm bringing to the attention of a lot of professionals, especially nurses and doctors in the medical community who did get levels of COVID and completely unaware that they were still impacted by it. Now, I work with plant materials, as I said. A singular note is a note like lavender oil or vanilla. This is a vanilla extract, which happens to be a food grade. Put two of these smells together and you get what is called like an accord. And then accords usually turn into stories, and stories are what we call scent memories. I have no idea how to release the scent memories in everyone's life, but I do know that if you focus on your scent, you'll increase your scent memories, and then you will be much more aware of which ones are your personal triggers, which ones help you relax, which ones help you stimulate you. I know for a fact, if you bring out the smell of pipe smoke, that will make me go into tears, because that will remind me of my dear father who used to smoke a pipe. We all have them. Some people have shampoos. Maybe there's a cologne or a smell, a shirt. These are scent memories. These are really profound. And so as you are moving forward, if you're focused on your sense of smell and you're associating that sense of smell with positive shifts, things that you're doing, breathing, if you're doing yoga and you're including a scent within your yoga practice, these are fantastic tools. If you're using scent while you're studying, for example, many people have diffusers. If you're using a scent in the diffuser as part of that, it's fantastic as a cognitive conditioning to re-pull up a memory, or in the case of studying, what you're studying. Some people find that challenging, like a periodic table, for example, is difficult. In the kitchen pantry, where my sister and I used to play, there are lots of spices, smells, flavors. This is a game you can play at home with your kids, with your family. And on a rainy day, if you pull out the pantry and you blindfold each other and you smell and write it down, there's all kinds of things you will find in your pantry. And this is really interesting because there's a cultural connection, and many cultures have various different herbs, spices, flavoring agent. It's connected. And so all of these things are available, and we just usually completely forget about them. As we get older, this is a very important part to help address some of the isolation that is happening within long-term care homes or in stages of dementia and Alzheimer's. So one issue happens with seniors in particularly is they lose the interest of eating food. And the reason for that is a lot of times the food is not prepared in a way where people are around. When my son was on the growing up as a child, food was a huge issue for him. And it was very important for me to make sure that the cooking, the fragrance, the smells were always available in the home. because that triggers the physiological aspects of your body, the gastric juices, the intestines, and it helps start the digestive process. It's very critical. And so if you are dealing with individuals who are having troubles eating for whatever reason, depression, anxiety, which comes in as side issues of a lot of these mental health issues, if you do the smell game or smell that cup of tea and focus on it and really talk about it, like, what are you smelling? Herbal teas are fantastic because you can get a variety of them in different stores. Even when you open up the jar, you get a bouquet when you're smelling it. This is fantastic coffee. And I think it's a flavored coffee of some type. But these aromas are very much part of the connection, very much part of the palate, and very much a part of why we want to eat. The coffee is grounds. Obviously, there's the process of doing this. Coffee is the most international flavor or fragrance in the world, palatable. Every country just prepares it differently. Now, normally in the pantry or within the smell game, we offer, and we have a program where we offer kits. We assume most people have some smells within their homes. And so if you use vanilla extract, that's this first scent up here. Vanilla has vanillin in it. And this is one of the most expensive raw materials because of McDonald's and Starbucks. It's in almost everything. Natural vanilla is more, you'll see, is much more expensive than artificial, but the smell of it is the vanillin. And we know vanillin creates a comfort feeling, specifically used in laundry detergents and fabric softeners. However, it's quite interesting, the smell of it, love-hate relationship. And again, you're not using the scents because you like it. You're not using it because it's your favorite. Some of these smells may not appeal to you. But the research is showing us that these scents do specific things to our brain. They either stimulate them or they calm them down. They help to release hormonal activities, which in a panic attack, for example, is a wonderful way to help bring down the anxiety that you may be feeling. If you're in the 401 and you're driving on the highway and you're stuck and you start to get a panic attack, having, I like the essential oils in the car. You can put a few drops on a cotton ball and stick it in the vent and do some deep breathing and allow that to pass. These are tools that you can use. It's not curing anxiety by any means. It's helping you in the process of transitioning through some of these conditions, which can be very challenging because they can actually cause people not to go places and do things and drive their cars and go where they need to. Rosemary is an herb that you would find in every gardening center right now across, with the spring coming in the Northern Hemisphere, at least. And rosemary, when you rub them in your hands and then you smell your hands, the oil translates. It's a fantastic herb. I always recommend everybody to do herb gardening, even if you're not going to cook them, to harvest them for the aromas. Rosemary stimulates, it oxygenates the brain, which is been used and is in current research with Parkinson's, which is an interesting because it seems to waken up certain areas of the brain that were dormant. And so one of my goals with my company is we're hoping to do some specific research with Alzheimer's and with some of these scents and really target and really start to understand more of what is behind this on a research standpoint. But some research can take years. In the meantime, we're working in many long-term care facilities and we're working with individuals because we use little what we call perfumer sticks and we engage the individual using scent. Now, lavender is the most common essential oil. It is one of the safest, and that's one of the reasons why Johnson & Johnson uses it in baby care. But the research on the scent and how it impacts sleep is quite fascinating. There's quite a few studies, and all of the studies and information that I'm citing will be located publicly on LinkedIn in a group called the Olfactive Group. if there's a study that you're looking for, I will gladly send you the link. Just send me an email. But the lavender in particular, they did a fantastic study between two groups. One was on a sleep aid, which was a medication, and the other used lavender in diffusers and sent them in the rooms. And the results of the sleep, how it helped with sleep, was the same. And that's the interesting part to this, is it's not saying that we're against medication, because medication is effective for many reasons. However, what we are suggesting is that alternatively, you may want to start with this first, or if you're working with children or the less vulnerable or individuals, or you don't want to take any more medication because we don't know the side effects of combining various medications. This is a really fantastic way to increase REM sleep. You can put a few drops of lavender oil on a used dryer sheet and stick it in your pillow each night if you don't have a diffuser. Most people have lavender or a few of these essential oils. That's one of the reasons why I like to focus on plant materials, because I don't sell the plant materials. I like to teach people what to do with them. This is my smell learning type of program. These are some of the PSWs, nurses, individuals that we train. I have a business model where we offer this training specifically. And then we are starting to roll out a family integration program where we're focusing on 4 scents in particular. And we're doing training with family members who are helping their loved ones as a form of smell therapy. This is something that is quite interesting. You'll see with the seniors, they can, even with severe arthritis, they can hold the paper sticks. Working with isolation, you have a few things happening with smell. It's just a scent. However, scent creates an opportunity of conversation. And these people, these 3 ladies in general, normally don't speak to each other. And in this class, they were sharing what they smelt and what it was like back home. And all of a sudden, these few scents turned into a conversation which breaks the isolation, which then is a discussion that the family members can carry on. And the next time they see, they can speak. We brought out the tea, again, including lots of different smells and herbal teas, and having that conversation. It's a little, it's not like a wine tasting, but it's similar concept where you're really starting to do some sensory engagement. So the family integration project will be off hopefully in May. And so we'll be incorporating that more so family members can support their loved ones. But this is where I guess my specialty is, because I've supported a young child who's now an adult using scent, and I have supported my older sister who's now in a long-term care home. How do you use scent? And I've also used it for myself, because some nights it's very challenging and very difficult and very frustrating. Sometimes you feel beaten up. Many tears in my eyes over the years of how I want to do more. And I have taken baths and just done some breathing. I've worked with various different smells, knowing that I am walking into a hospital siting and I need to be prepared. So these are just ways to utilize scent as part of a conditioning component that helps you within your brain. Not all scents have an impact on the brain. They do with smell and the olfaction aspect of it, but they all haven't been studied. And so there's a select few that we work with that we have some research behind, and my goal is to expand that. Here's my scent tip. We talked about lavender on a pillow or on a dryer sheet, and it put it in the pillow. It's fantastic for sleeping. Individuals who still wear face masks, specifically doctors and nurses and individuals in the medical care, if you drop a drop of peppermint oil within the mask, it helps with breathing, but it also helps from the psychology. Part of the mask issue was people were breathing in an unpleasant smell, which created a claustrophobic feeling. So this is another way of incorporating scent within that. This is where you can start to get some more information, because there's lots of ways of utilizing scent with various different elements of anxiety and depression, ADD, ADHD, We have, as we talked about, isolation issues, all kinds. Like there's lots and lots of research. This is something that COVID opened the world to see. So if you go on to any of the social media feeds and you hit Smelling Pink, we post regularly. My team is constantly putting up solid information. Under LinkedIn, the Olfactive Group, there's a TED Talk that we have information. All that is on my website. And we have a YouTube channel with probably about 130 videos I did during the pandemic. What to do when you have a bottle of essential oils. And so you have one of these bottles, what do you do with it? Many people bring them home, but they don't know what to do with it. So I show you some very simplistic tools on how to add scent. The scented layer is an area where we have some essential oils if people want them, but many of them can pick them up at grocery stores along the way. So this is my introduction to smell learning. If anybody has any questions, please throw them in the chat. I'm more than willing to answer them for you. The expansion of the program that we have for the long-term care and for the industry per se is a more extensive program. I have a book that is out, and that's also on the website on Smelling Pink. It's an ebook. It's like $2.95, but there's lots of information that you can go away from this class. You can get further information. If you have specific questions on a particular ailment that you're trying to work with. But the three easiest ways is your takeaway. How do you use scent? Really and truthfully, you're smelling for 15 to 20 minutes, a specific scent, just a cotton ball, a tissue. When my son was a little boy going to school, I used to put certain scents on cotton balls. He put them in his pocket. And when the kids were bullying him, he would pull the scent out and he would just calm down and know that that was his superpower. These are the ways to utilize scent. You can use them. People use them when they travel, when they're on the airplane, various different forms, but just smelling various different scents. Now you have to choose specific ones. Not all scents do the same thing. And you don't want to have smells that are stimulating the brain versus calming the brain down. Obviously, this is a science. This is not something that is aromatherapy where it's passed on. No cures here, no skin application whatsoever. We are not focusing on trying to change. In fact, some of the ailments that I referenced, there's fantastic personality characteristics that come with it. It's just learning how to cope and manage in this crazy world that we call life, which sometimes is overwhelming for all of us. So my class today is 30 minutes long. It's not a long class. It's an introduction to who I am. It's an introduction to the programs we offer, as well as if you have a class that you would like me to teach that I can offer, drop me a line and let me know. If there's any other questions, I will make sure I send you the YouTube link on today's class on smell therapy. My name is Tracy Pepe. I hope you enjoyed this 30-minute webinar. And if there's anything I can do, you're more than welcome. Please take care. And remember, smelling a little bit every day is incredibly important. I cannot tell you how impactful. Smelling the right scents are more than, it's very critical. It's very critical to smell the right scents for certain ailments. I will give you one little tip along the way. There's 2 or 3 scents that I always get people asking me, if you were going to pick the smells, what are the smells? There's an oil out there called vetiver. And vetiver is what we call a base note. And it's similar to patchouli. And it has got a really heavy, woodsy earth smell. Okay. These are scents that really calm the brain. And there's some preliminary studies that are showing that it helps to release serotonin in the brain. And if you are focusing on meditation and deep breathing, and you're adding these particular types of smells into this practice, it falls in the line of a tradition that happened generations and generations ago, historically, with religion. Every religion has a scent. And the word parfum is up in smoke. And the whole premise to parfum, long before we even got into this, is the sending your prayers and your messages to your God and adding a sweet smell to the scent is what they would do for the encouragement of listening to the prayer. Hindu have certain scents. Catholics have certain scents. The indigenous community, all cultures and religions have a certain scent. If you identify with that type of scent, what that is for your prayer, your meditation, your breathing, the science is overwhelming on grounding, relaxing, and bringing your brain, the waves, calming it down. So that is something that I would explore, specifically in a world of how do you shut your brain off? And that is something that is really important. Now, if you're the individual on the opposite side of the spectrum where you need to stimulate yourself, you need some form of pick-me-up, you are feeling overwhelmed, it's the citrus category. And the citrus category is the opposite end of the spectrum. This is what we call a top note. Top notes evaporate very quickly. They are fresh, they are fun, and you have a whole selection to choose from. Lemon, lime, grapefruit, mandarin, tangerine. They're fresh, they're awakening. The creative, they really help to stimulate the brain. These are scents that you can use retaining information. For example, you have a lot of work to do. Fabulous stimulation. They're not that overpowering. The vetiver and patchouli can be overpowering because they're what is called a base note. They're very heavy. But these are two opposite ends of the spectrum. I really recommend you trying to buy or to smell them or to experience them, and you will see the difference yourself, which is the key part to this. Smell learning is about you individually getting involved with scents and using those scents and working them within your pattern. It's no different than another tool in the toolbox, whether it's exercise, diet, shutting your phone off, lots of water. It's part of the overall wellness that we need to improve for each and every one of us. So thank you again, and reach out at any time, send me any questions, and I will make sure you will get the videotape when we sign off tonight, and it's downloaded on YouTube. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening. My name is Tracy Pepe, and thank you for joining me here at Smelling Pink.